Joining me right now on Kumite Radio is Khai Wu, the 23-year-old young prospect out of California. He'll be fighting on September 29th at Bellator 206 in San Jose. What's going on, Khai? Welcome back.
Thanks, man. Always a pleasure to be on here with you.
No doubt. Now, I want to first talk about your love for Boba Tea, aka milk tea. Tell me about that.
Yeah, man. I was 9 when I first tried it, I think, or 8, 7 to 9. I remember. I think that's around the time. My dad and I would get it for just like, I guess you could say that's our bonding time, or me and my mom, my family. That's something that we did. We don't really go out much, so if we hung out, we go boba hunting and look, at boba here and there. And then growing up, it's just always kind of like was like like Americans, they get like dessert like Dairy Queen or like Baskin Robbins. Mine was just finding boba tea because 10 years ago there's no boba tea around. And then slowly but surely, there's more and more development in the boba scene in America. It's just caught on. And when I lived in Taiwan, I had it all the time. So it was just one of those things that stuck with me. And then it's like, nowadays, like I see a lot of kids walking around with just boba tea. It's like Starbucks to them. So it was kind of cool how my love for boba tea just kind of developed. And then now it's everywhere. You can't go anywhere in California without having a boba tea in some sort of shop. And I was like, man, wouldn't it be cool one day if I got my own boba? Because boba has only increased, like, the price. So then me and my dad would always go, and my dad's one of those typical Asian dads. He'd always complain. He's like, man, every year we go buy boba. It's so expensive. They add on another dollar, another 50 cents. And then this year, I was really lucky. I got sponsored by Share Tea in Valley Fair. Their boba company, like they're pretty global. So I took them in. And then I got some drinks, and they're free. And I've never seen him so stunned before. He's just like, this doesn't feel right. We should pay for this. It was super cool. So it was one of those things that may not mean a lot, but to me it does, because every year to hear him complain and say stuff, and finally, like, I worked my butt off, and now I'm in a position where I could take my mom and pop there and we get free boba. It's just the trade-offs is unreal. And that's kind of where my love and development kind of all started, and now where it's led to. Obviously I can't have a bunch because, I'm a fighter, but then they got tea options. So, like, that's awesome. The tea, I don't drink coffee. I drink tea. I just love tea. I think it's just so just the taste in your mouth is just, you got to have it in order for you to understand,
No doubt. Let's talk about the origins of Khai Wu. Tell me about where all your martial arts started.
So my martial arts started when I was 9. I got into it because my brother-in-law is Dave Camarillo. I've known him since I was 2. And he kind of just took me in AK one day because he was the main grappling coach at the time. He was one of the head coaches, and he was kind of like, hey, do you want to just, grapple around a little bit or learn? Because, I was always into fighting. I grew up on, the Iron Fist comic books, the Batman comic books and TV series. There's no Lion King or anything like that for me. So growing up, it was just always like watching superhero films and Jet Li, and Bruce Lee was a little bit before, and I always knew about him, but I always thought he was a little too played out. Everybody would, boards don't hit back. I was kind of like tired of hearing that. Well, of course they don't, but Jet Li was cool because Bruce Lee had that physique and he just looked terrifying, but Jet Li looks like a calm little, like, I could see myself like him. And then I watched a lot of his stuff, and I was like, man, this is badass. Like, he's so dope. So then I would always just shadow box and do all sorts of crazy, like, try to like do these flips at home. And I was pretty agile. And then I went into jiu-jitsu one day, and I was like, I don't see any of this stuff in movies. Well, I'm like, what is this stuff? And it's mixed martial arts. I started learning jiu-jitsu first. And I was huge into basketball in the beginning, but slowly, I realized basketball was not a route for me because, one, like, I wasn't as dedicated in basketball. Like, I wouldn't wake up at 5 a.m. to go play basketball. It just wasn't as serious as I thought I was going to be. And also in jiu-jitsu, when somebody tasked me out, and I've never done kids class. I was always doing adult class, I dropped into kids class here and there, but I was mainly with adults. And when an adult would like smash me, and then I hear Dave kind of just go, hey, like, go a little bit lighter. He's like a smaller kid. I get so furious. I try to, like, I see all these Shaolin monk kids, and I'm like, how do they do it, and why can't I do it? So then I got obsessed with progression, not even beating the guy that, you know, that I train with. It's just more like, how do I get better? You know, how do I react faster to a single leg takedown? And then the adult strength never kicked in until I was like 14, 15. Then I was the first tournament I ever did. I'll never forget. It was first jiu-jitsu tournament. I signed up for my weight and gi and no gi, and then there's nobody in my weight class, so I got bumped up. So then Dave told me, he was like, yeah, you know, Dave's been in the jiu-jitsu game for so long. So Dave was just like, whatever about it. But he's so calm that it made me nervous. You know, I thought he had like no faith in me. I was just like, man, this sucks. And then I see everybody getting warmed up the first time they come, like, you know, a competition, you know, it hits you hard. First match, kid shoots a single leg on me and I roll over for a guillotine. 10 seconds in the match, he taps. And I was like, whoa, is this over? Is that it? Next match happens, something similar. It's like a minute 49. We just kept it standing. I Osoto guarded him. I caught him in a guillotine from standing and I choked him unconscious. And I was like, no way, like this is crazy. And then I fought in gi, and then I guillotined the guy as well. They just love shooting single legs on me for some reason. I just guillotined all 5 of my opponents that day, and I had 1 decision. And then I got 2 trophies that day, and then I went up a weight class, and I was just like, I was hooked. I was hooked. And then I had a huge setback the first time I ever lost. So as a white belt, I won every single tournament but one. And the one tournament that I lost, I lost to a Brazilian guy from Brazil. He flew in from Brazil to compete. He beat me at white belt and triangled me. I've never got submitted before, so there's a huge ego check. I like stopped doing jiu-jitsu. I was like, well, if this guy beats me, you know, I was like 14. I was like, if he beats me and I've been training for so long, then what am I doing? You know? And then I got my head around the game. Like I watched a couple Batman episodes, saw how he got beat by Bane, you know, and I was like, the comeback, the return. And then I've developed more into a martial artist instead of a fighter, you know, because I started fighting for the trophies, started fighting for the medals. When in reality, the beginning, the reason why I started this was because of all the challenges. So that's where I developed. And I was never going to think, I never thought about fighting. It wasn't until I had my first amateur fight, my debut in amateur MMA, I knocked the guy out with 22 punches, TKO in the first round. And I was like, I think I could make a living out of this. Because I always fought on amateurs. You weigh in day of here. And I thought, I'm not going to cut too much weight. I don't like cutting weight at that time. We weigh in morning, the day of. So it's not much help. So I was fighting guys that I was like 160. And I weighed about 145, 144, you know, that day after eating pasta and all that stuff. So I was fighting guys that are like way bigger than me. And I just thought, you know, like as an amateur, I used to watch these fights and I was always going like, how come these guys can't knock these other guys out? Like what's going on there, you know? And then I finally gave it a shot myself. I didn't want to be a hypocrite, you know, I wanted to do it myself and see if I could actually do it. And I knocked a couple people out as an amateur. And then, you know, I started a little bit later in my amateur career, 21. Had a bunch of unfortunate injuries that put me out of title fights, fighters pulling out. So it started becoming amateurish, you know, like the title amateur started really kicking in. Like everybody's kind of doing this like, cause it's cool, you know, you could take an amateur fight, not get elbowed or knee to the face. It's everything. Everybody thinks it's cool until you get in there and do it. And then once they do it, they're like, well, it takes a lot of bravery to get to the cage. You know, like I felt like there's a difference between pro and amateur. And if I keep fighting amateur and fighters pull out and this and that, it's just I'm wasting my time. So I was like, let's do it. Let's make the jump to pro. And then the first time I fought pro back in Asia, Taiwan, it wasn't until after the fight I was like, I'm a pro fighter. You know, like that was set. And then that's kind of where it led me to now. This is my first pro year, and I feel like this feels comfortable. You know, like this feels like I've been here for a while. I've been preparing for this, and finally it's here. So that's kind of how I started martial arts and how it all transferred into me becoming a pro fighter today. But there was a lot of journeys and hardships that I endured in my life, like drama wise. And, you know, like it just makes it tougher. Like I saw a quote recently. It was just like, you know, it was like a picture of a seed being thrown into a dirt and being covered. And, you know, like you feel like you're put in a dark spot. And it's for you to grow though, you know, and then a tree or a plant appears. And that really stuck to me because like, you know, a lot of the hardships I went through, if I had not had dirt thrown on me or negativity, I would not have sprouted into this position today. So a lot of the people that I used to, you know, get angry at or think about and just get mad, I actually now look at it from a different perspective. It really gives you perspective when certain things happen in your life, regardless if it's super positive or super bad. when you have that spectrum to relate to and look at, I think it's just like martial arts, like when the one-armed swordsman, how he lost an arm and he can only use his right arm, but he ended up getting really good. And because he doesn't have that left arm holding him back, he's just, so it's just like visualization and articulation of all that stuff. Like the fact that you can comprehend it or see it in such a way that got me to where I am today. And I can't be more happy that, that I am now. And it took me this long to realize it.
Yeah, it's been a long first year, your first professional year, your last fight, RFC2, last July, you submitted Yusei Tashiro. You are slowly becoming the face of RFC in Taiwan. Are you keen to taking that role?
Yeah, I'd love to. It was crazy. This time when I fought, they had amateurs before, me. And I had some of the amateur guys coming up to me and going like, "I want to do what you do," or like they're like looking at me, calling me like the older brother or something. I'm like, "Dude, you're probably like a couple years older than me," or like we're like peers. But then they looked up to me, and one of them lost. I went up to him, gave him some words of encouragement, and just typical like better cardio next time, or like keep fighting, don't stop. I see that you lost, but don't stop fighting, like don't get discouraged, because if I got discouraged, I wouldn't be here today. Just to give him some words of encouragement. And he ended up having his girlfriend record the whole thing when I was talking to him. I had no idea. And then we took a photo together. And then after the fight, the people that were there, the celebrities or just the regular people, like just the basics, like the audience and how many photos I got. What really got me was after the fight, I got a bunch of followers on social media, and a lot of them had me with like a photo of us on their profile pictures. And I was just blown away. I was like, wow, I've never, like, gee, who thinks of that? I'm thinking about not getting knocked out by my opponent or submitted, and then next thing you know, it's a whole nother thing. So it was an honor. And if RFC, keeps calling me back and saying, hey, we'll give you a contract, we'll throw on more shows. I'm a company guy, like I'm a businessman, so like I will help them as much as possible. I'd never ask for anything over the top, they're not going to see me throwing dollies at their buses anytime soon, if anything, I'll be throwing boba tea or something, that's easier to clean up. But, I don't think I think it goes both ways. Like as long as they keep having shows, I'd love to keep fighting for them, that's like, yes, obviously, the big leagues is where I want to go and showcase all my skills. But at the same time, when there's a promotion like this and a spot for me, it's hard for me to say no, because I'm starting something new. Like this organization could take off. You see like ACB, Brave, Cage Warriors, all these organizations, international, Road FC, they're all doing really well. They're building up. Like the more organizations, the better. It's just more options on the table, and it's just a great experience. And I think what's going to happen for like the next year and a half is RFC in Taiwan, and then Bellator gives me a call for their local show. RFC Taiwan, Bellator. I think that's what's going to happen. So unless Bellator gives me a contract, but that's all hypothetical. You got to perform first. But RFC, I would love to be like a poster boy or whatever for them, because it's just there's not a lot of options for them, out in Taiwan as of right now. And until they develop a hometown guy that from like the grassroots, born in Taiwan, this and that, I'm willing to take the role,
With those promotions you just mentioned, they always need to have stars, and those stars can fight and take opportunities and get sponsorships and make money. And then later on, since you are very young still, you can go to the bigger leagues and get bigger contracts. It's always going to be there. So taking your time is not a bad thing at all.
Yeah, that's what I look forward to doing. That's one thing I've learned is patience. I remember there's so many times where I drive home from the gym, I'm just thinking in my head like, I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that. And then now it's all slowly coming to me, but I can't rush, like one mistake I made was I jumped on a fight sooner than I should have. And because it seemed like a quicker like turnaround time, whereas I probably should have rested up my body, heal up from the injuries, and then that fight ended up not happening because I got so confident taking it and jumping up to opportunity that they took it as well. But because it was amateur, they backed out week of. They didn't feel like it was a good time, and I just shouldn't have jumped on those opportunities. Sometimes it's better to be, take it as it is, take it as it comes. And that's what I should have done instead of always seeking out, going out and seeking things. I should do more, going in and just starting from the inside, and I could really slow things down.
Definitely. Now you have your second chance in Bellator at Bellator 206 in San Jose versus Isiah Gonzalez. You guys are both local guys. What do you know about him?
Um, I know I don't know much about him. I just know that he hasn't fought in over a year. I'm not sure why, maybe due to injury or something like that. I didn't look into him too much. I just looked at his basic stats, like his height, and from the video that was on YouTube, probably. I just we broke it down. I don't look too much into my opponents. Like I don't want to, because he hasn't fought in a long time, so he could have easily adapted his style many different ways. Because I know I do. My last fight in Taiwan, if you have me fight him again, I'd be a completely different style. And I'm not kidding when I say that. It's like really like I just mentally broke that fight down and goes, man, I could have fought so many different ways better. I could have avoided this shot or that shot. So I'm sure he does that because he trains at an AKA, very prestigious gym. And he's a taller guy, 5'10". I'm about 5'7", 5'8". So he does have that height advantage. But I'm happy because he's not a southpaw. I've fought so many southpaws that, I'd like to fight an orthodox just because there's more orthodox than southpaws. So seeing him this fight, he's probably going to be orthodox, like most of his career has been. And I don't really know much about him. I just know he's a tough guy. He's going to be a tough fight. And in this game, it's never personal. Like this is like when we go to work, it means signing up for a fight. So I don't take offense to anybody choosing me as a fight or thinking that they could beat me because it's their job. So I know he's got a lot of confidence going into this fight because he has footage of me here and there. But at the end of the day, it's another challenge for me. I have a lot more new tricks that I want to showcase to everybody. And I want to showcase to myself that I can do it under pressure and all this stuff. So with him, it's very interesting because my last fight, I showcased my ground game finally. So I'm really interested to see if they want to take me down or keep it on the feet, because either way, I'm starting to get really comfortable in both zones, mixing everything together. I'm becoming a full-on mixed martial artist instead of the typical striker that you used to see. So I'm really maturing, and I'd like to see which route that they decide to take.
Gonzalez, he's the taller fighter, lanky guy, very similar to Cass Bell, the guy you fought in your debut for Bellator. What do you take from the Bell matchup into this fight?
The Bell matchup, don't rush. I rushed a lot, and I was in southpaw the whole fight. This fight, I will switch it up, because that's just how I fight. I switch stances a lot. But orthodox, like I said, a lot more comfortable. Bell is a little bit taller, and he's more of a wrestler. Isiah is more of a striker. He has a more of a decent striking background. And with Isiah, I think the difference with Isiah is mainly the style wise. Like Cass is a huge wrestler. He wanted to wrestle most of that fight, even though we didn't get to wrestle much, but ideally he wanted to get it to the ground. With Isiah, I don't know if that's the case as much because he's capable of taking the fights both. Like if you match me up against Cass again, advantages would be striking for me still, and advantage would be for him grappling still. But with Isiah, it's like pretty even. He could fight on the ground and on the feet. So it's like dead even, and because he is longer, he has the advantages here and there, so I need to take his advantages and make it into my own. So with him, I definitely think patience is a lot better, because with the Cass fight, I felt so rushed to get out there and do all this stuff, mentally. And for that Cass fight, I wasn't overconfident with Cass. I was overconfident with myself, like I thought I was a lot faster than I was. I gave him full credit. He did everything that I imagined him to be good at. I just over imagined my capabilities, because during sparring or whatnot, I just didn't simulate at the same frequency. And after having a couple more pro fights now, that loss to reflect on, and then the Taiwan fight, Taiwan had a lot more pressure for me because it's in my hometown, like home crowd, family, all this stuff, and the bright lights, and it's just a little bit more nerve-wracking. But the way I handled it gave me so much more confidence going into this fight, a lot more clear, and with Isiah, the cage is going to be very big. So it's just going to feel real nice to be in there again, man. I mean, I know I just fought in July, but still I'm itching to get back in there.
After Bellator 206, what are your plans for the rest of the year, or maybe even in 2019?
Rest of the year, I got to see. I hope I come out of this fight unscathed, like I usually do. and I hope no injuries for either of us. Uh, I would like to take one more fight. If it's boxing, if it's kickboxing, Muay Thai, jiu-jitsu tournament, I don't care. I want something before the year ends. And then next year, I know RFC has another show, RFC 3, and I heard this one's going to be pretty good because the last two have been very good, like responses, and there's some more people getting involving themselves a part of it, more funding, I guess. So RFC is going to be January 12th. I want to go there for that one. They don't have the matchups yet because it's a little early out, but I know they asked me about if I was interested. And then afterwards, I might stay a little bit because it'll be Chinese New Year, in February. So it'll be cool to get another fight and get some red envelopes or something, and then come back to the States. Next year, I want to be just as busy as I was this year, except I want to take a lot more. This was pro year. I had to kind of see how everything goes. Now that I have an idea of how everything kind of goes, like in terms of the pro leagues, for Bellator next year, they probably come back in April, which means February, March, I have another, couple months to get ready for another fight. I know there's a lot more organizations growing locally. So I'd like to take some of those fights, just to fight local shows, but these are very professional local shows. I'd like to do a couple of those and build my resume again. I personally, if I could, ideally, I'd like to get 6 fights a year, 6 MMA fights a year. It's perfect. A month and a half to 2 months in between each fight. But you never know. Like some fights back out. It's hard to find fighters. But due to the increase in the MMA scene this year alone that I've seen, there's a lot of guys that are now transitioning to pros. And I still have, after this Bellator fight, hopefully I'll go 3-1. I would have only had 4 fights, so it's not a lot. So there's still a lot of guys that can, come out and I could fight early on, middle of next year, So, and then who knows, after this Bellator fight, maybe they like it. Maybe I get offered a contract. If not, then, RFC offers a contract. There's just so many stuff going on that it's hard to pinpoint exactly what happens. But I would, the end goal is to stay active, just keep fighting and expand my arsenal into boxing. I really want to get into boxing because I keep watching Iron Fist season 2 just came out, and I watched it, and I'm just like, man, those glowing fists, just I don't know. It'd be really cool for me to fight in boxing because Asians are known for the striking martial arts, like in Asia, like Muay Thai, this and that, but you don't see a lot of Asian boxers. Mm-hmm. China has a bunch of there was one guy who made it to the Olympics, but it's just like there's not a lot of Asian boxers out here. So I want to. It is a complete different vibe, boxing and MMA still, so I kind of want to shift over to boxing and give it a nice, couple fights, and who knows, I might entertain it more often than not, but there's always that question of, a boxer versus an MMA fighter, how would they do? I kind of want to put that to rest, not mixed martial arts just mean we train in all areas and not really an expert in one, whereas boxing, you're just expert in the hands. But I do want to go in there and showcase, instead of just boxing versus MMA, it's boxing versus just a martial artist that would put his unorthodox style on the line against other boxers. And I'm really curious to see how that goes. So boxing is something I'm really into, but if MMA keeps knocking on the door, then gotta keep taking it. I need to be able to afford getting my whole team some boba. I need to get the sponsors to be able to hook my team up and me and all this good stuff. I got a lot of good sponsors that the only way I can really contribute back to them is finishing, getting them some good highlights. And then who knows, RFC, I'm trying to convince them. I'm like, I have 2 fights under your guys' banner, and both my fights have ended in the first round. Arguably, I think both fights, they've been my first fight, it was under 60 seconds. Second fight, I get a bulldog choke. It's a pretty rare choke in, MMA. It's not very often. I'm like, where's my bonus? I want a little bit of an incentive. I keep doing really well. So maybe I could push the RFC bosses in the right direction and, get paid a little bit more. So that way I could take care of the family and friends,
Sure. Well, before that happens, you'll be stepping in the cage at Bellator 206 on September 29th in San Jose versus Isiah Gonzalez. Good luck to you, Khai, and we'll talk soon again, man.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.